There is a version of you that is already rich, already whole, already free. And the wildest part, that version of you isn't waiting on a bigger paycheck or a better relationship or some perfect morning 3 years from now when everything finally clicks. That version of you is waiting on one thing, a single shift, a decision so small nobody would ever put it on a vision board. And yet, it is the one decision that separates the people who spend their whole life chasing more from the people who wake up already overflowing. That decision is gratitude. Not the soft greeting card kind, not the kind you whisper once a year at a dinner table before diving into a plate of food you barely taste. I'm talking about a ferocious, disciplined, almost dangerous gratitude. The kind that rewires a starving mind into an abundant one. And by the time this is over, you are going to understand exactly why the people who have the least sometimes radiate the most, and why some of the wealthiest people on earth still feel like beggars standing outside their own life, looking in through the glass. So let me ask you something, and I want you to actually sit with it instead of rushing past it the way you rush past everything else. When was the last time you felt like you had enough? Not enough for now, not enough until the next bill. I mean truly bone-deep satisfied enough. If you're struggling to remember, you are not broken, you are not lazy, and you are not ungrateful by nature. You have simply been trained by algorithms, by advertising, by comparison, by your own exhausted mind, to always look at the gap. The gap between what you have and what you want is the gap between where you are and where they are. And here's the brutal truth nobody tells you. That gap will never close on its own. It doesn't matter how much money lands in your account, how many followers show up on your screen, how many rooms you finally get invited into. The gap follows you. It moves the goalposts every single time you get close, because the gap was never really about the money or the followers or the room. The gap is about attention. It's about where you have trained your mind to look. And this is where it gets uncomfortable, so stay with me. Abundance was never about how much you have. Abundance is a lens. It is the specific, learnable skill of noticing what is already yours before you go chasing what isn't. Scarcity is the opposite lens. And scarcity doesn't just show up when you're broke. Scarcity shows up in mansions. It shows up in the passenger seat of a car some people would kill to drive. It shows up in relationships that plenty of lonely people would trade everything for. Because scarcity isn't a bank statement. Scarcity is a habit of attention. And if that habit isn't interrupted, more money just means a more expensive version of the exact same emptiness. I need you to hear this next part like your life depends on it, because in a very real way, it does. Nobody arrives at gratitude by accident. Life will not hand it to you once things finally calm down, once the storm finally passes, once you finally make it. I have watched people cross every finish line they ever dreamed about and still wake up hollow because they never built the muscle. Gratitude is a muscle, not a mood. It has to be trained the same way you train your body in a gym, deliberately, repeatedly, on the days you don't feel like it, especially on the days you don't feel like it. And just like nobody walks into a gym and deadlifts 300 pounds on day one, nobody wakes up overflowing with appreciation after a lifetime of scanning the world for what's missing. You build it, rep by rep, morning by morning, thought by thought. Here's what almost nobody will tell you about pain, so let me say it plainly. Pain and gratitude are not enemies. They were never opposites. You can be grieving and grateful in the same breath. You can be furious about what was taken from you and still recognize what remains standing. In fact, some of the deepest gratitude I have ever witnessed didn't come from people who had everything. It came from people who had lost almost everything and still found a reason to lift their heads. They will tell you that losing what they thought they needed is exactly what showed them what they actually had. The job that fell apart revealed the friends who didn't. The relationship that ended revealed the strength that was always underneath. The diagnosis, the funeral, the failure, the public embarrassment, all of it somehow became the exact crucible that burned away the noise and left only what was real. That is not poetry. That is a pattern you can watch play out again and again in real human lives, including maybe on your own if you're honest enough to look back and see it. So why does it feel so hard? Why, when everything you know gratitude would help, do you still default to complain, to comparison, to the quiet, exhausting hum of not enough, not enough, not enough? Because your mind was built by evolution to scan threats, not blessings. Your ancestors who noticed danger survived. The ones who sat around appreciating the sunset while a predator crept up behind them did not pass on their genes. You are walking around today with a brain engineered, quite literally, to hunt for what's wrong. That wiring kept your ancestors alive on the savannah, but you are not in the savannah anymore. You are scrolling a feed at 11 at night, comparing your unedited life to someone else's highlight reel. And that same ancient threat detector is now pointed at your own existence, screaming that you are behind, that you are failing, that everyone else has figured something out that you haven't, that wiring is not a character flaw. It is a machine doing exactly what it was built to do in an environment it was never built for, which means the fix isn't to shame yourself for feeling scarce. The fix is to retrain the machine on purpose. And here is where the real work begins, because training your attention is not about pretending everything is fine when it isn't. It is not a toxic positivity. It is not slapping a smile over a wound and calling it healed. Real gratitude has teeth. It looks directly at what hurts and still chooses to notice what remains. It says, yes, this is hard, and also, I woke up today. Yes, that relationship ended, and also, I have people who would show up for me at 3 in the morning without asking why. Yes, the money is tight this month, and also, I have never once gone a single day of my life without finding a way through. That, and also, is where abundance lives. Not in the absence of difficulty, but in the refusal to let difficulty be the only thing you see. Think about the people you know who seem to walk through fire and come out lighter instead of heavier. It's not that the fire didn't touch them, it's that they didn't let the fire become the whole story. They took what was burned away and asked what it revealed instead of only asking what it cost. That is a decision. It is available to you right now in whatever situation you are currently knuckling your way through. You do not need the situation to change first. You need your lens to change first, and I promise you, the situation has a way of transforming once you stop starving it of your full attention and start feeding it with recognition of what is already working, even in the smallest, quietest corners of your life. Or let's talk about patience for a moment. Because gratitude and patience are cousins, and most people have neither because they were never taught that both have to be built slowly, on purpose, without applause. You live in a world engineered for instant everything. Instant messages, instant meals, instant validation from a stranger's thumb hovering over a like button. So, when your dream doesn't arrive on your timeline, your starving mind interprets the delay as proof that it's never coming. That is a lie your impatience tells you, and it is one of the most expensive lies a human being can believe. Everything of real value in this life takes time to mature. A seed does not argue with the soil about the schedule. It does not throw a tantrum in week 3 because it hasn't broken the surface yet. It keeps doing the quiet, unglamorous work of becoming underground in the dark, completely unseen. And if you dug it up early to check on its progress, you would kill the very thing you were trying to help grow. Your dream is to do the same work right now, in the dark, whether you can see it or not. The harvest is not canceled just because you can't see the roots. And this is exactly why gratitude has to come before for the harvest, not after it. If you wait until you have everything you want to finally feel grateful, you will train your mind to always chase, never arrive, because the moment you get the thing, your mind will already be scanning for the next gap. But if you practice gratitude for the seed while it's still underground, if you can look at your half-finished progress, your imperfect body, your complicated relationships, your not yet launched dream and say, there is already so much here worth honoring, something remarkable happens. You stop treating your current life as a waiting room and start treating it as the actual destination. And ironically, that shift, that decision to stop postponing your peace is usually the exact thing that unlocks the momentum you were straining for in the first place. Desperation repels, gratitude attracts me. Not in some mystical, hand-wavy sense, but in the very practical sense that grateful people take more consistent action, build stronger relationships, recover faster from setbacks, and simply show up more fully to the life in front of them. And showing up day after day, unglamorous and unnoticed, is how every single abundant life was actually built. I want you to notice something about your own story right now. You have survived 100% of your worst days. Every single person. The heartbreak you thought would end, you didn't end you. The failure you were sure would define you forever became one chapter, not the whole book. You are, at this exact moment, reading or listening to these words, living proof of your own resilience. And yet, how often do you actually credit yourself for that? How often do you sit in genuine appreciation of the fact that something you refuse to quit over and over, even when quitting would have been so much easier? That refusal is not lucky. That is the character you built, whether you notice the construction or not. And it deserves recognition, not as arrogance, but as an honest accounting of the truth.